here today to talk to you about Pearl Harbor. Many of you know what happened, and few know what actually happened time by time. It was kind of a quick action, but actually planned out. Before this all happened, FDR and Japan, they were communicating back and forth just about about Germany and all the attacks they were doing. Nothing mentioned anything about war. There's no aggression towards the U.S. It was just mutual ground, so we're at peace. And who decided this attack from Japan was Hirohito. He was emperor of Japan during the time, or like an emperor of the war during the time. And his plan was to send carriers about 230 miles away from Hawaii. So it was like a mutual point, so the planes could go there without running out of gas and come back. And his route, it's on the next one. His total plan was to have 6 carriers, 423 planes, and there would be 2 waves of planes that attacked at 2 separate times. Like I said, the carriers are 230 miles away. And this is where he wanted the first wave to come in from the side and loop in and get him from surprise over here, while the second wave came in from the right, from the map, and looped in and attacked him in there. Alright, so earlier that morning, at Pearl Harbor, the U.S. Navy found Japanese midget sub at 6 a.m. and they sunk it, but nothing was taken after that. They just thought there was one, so they sunk it and it was done with it. Then later that day, 7:02 a.m., 2 radar spots spotted a large number of planes. So they contacted the junior officer. He didn't do anything about it because they expected B-17s from the western continental U.S., so he thought it was just what they planned. He didn't know what time they're coming. So he blew it off and just told them they were expecting nothing of it. Alright, at 6 a.m., first wave of Japan planes took off. That wave consisted of 184 planes on the path to Pearl Harbor. While the Navy it was typical morning. They sunk the ship. They were all up, eating breakfast. Some were still asleep. Around 7:53 a.m., the first wave reaches Pearl Harbor. They had 40 K torpedo bombers, 51 Val dive bombers, 43 Zero fighters, and 50 high-level bombers. That was the first wave. All right. Well, we all know that we were surprised under attack, so nothing was said, no one was ready, and this is what caused a lot of casualties due to none of the guns being loaded, so it's hard to defend themselves. The missile nets weren't set, so many ships were taking damage underwater, and it took quite a while to get everything loaded and around to fight back right away. But by the end, we were shooting down some planes, so we were defending ourselves pretty good. Yes. The first ship to take the most damage to go down was USS West Virginia. Took 7 torpedoes to the side because none of the nets were down, so it couldn't really defend itself. But the cool thing about this one is after that was all said and done, they were able to restore it, and it actually saw a battle again, so they got to reuse it. Around 7:15 a.m., the second wave took off for Pearl Harbor. This wave consisted of 167 planes, and altogether, both waves were 351 planes together. So the U.S. took on 351 planes, which is quite a bit. But the next slide. The second wave arrives around 9 a.m. They struggled more than the first one because after the first one, everyone was already up, all the guns were set, all the torpedo nets were down, so they're ready to defend themselves. So the second wave took on a lot more, they had a lot more trouble trying to attack the planes. A lot of them, this is where the kamikazes came in because they weren't able to attack much. They decided to go hit the ship. So that's where that comes into play. After it's all said and done, the U.S. had lost 2,300 plus soldiers, 1,178 men were wounded, 68 civilians were killed, 35 civilians were wounded, and Japan only had a minimum of 64 men killed and 1 captured. And after all this was, after they called in and said that Japan had attacked, surprised because we were mutual with them, because they had the communication going back and forth, President Roosevelt addressed Congress, and he had his famous speech of the Pearl Harbor Address. His plan was to get Congress to sign the Bill of War. So during that, he mentioned all the attacks that Japan had the night before and that day, because there was more than just the U.S. And he just tried to get the point across that that's an act of war that we need to go into. And that same day, Congress signed the bill and declared war, and all was done. But the funny thing about this whole thing was the letter they were sending back and forth, communicating. An hour after the attack, the president received the message that they were communicating back and forth to Japan, and nothing mentioned war still. So while they were communicating, Hirohito had this whole big scheme planned out.